Wallowing in the past leads to guilt, shame, and depression. Worrying about the future leads to anxiety. So what do you do when you think compulsively about the past and the future, as you were trained to do? How do you escape that? Is there some refuge that you can find? Well, it turns out that yes, there is, and that actually two core teachings that show up in all authentic wisdom traditions actually support one another in helping you to escape the tyranny of the thinking mind that wallows in the past and fixates on the future. So join me in this guided meditation, friends. Get yourself to a quiet spot if you're not in one already. Settle in, close your eyes with me. And if you like to start your meditations in this way, you can take some long, slow, deep breaths. Or if you have some other method of settling into the present moment, you can go ahead and apply that method. Perhaps you need no method, and you can simply enjoy this meditation with me without needing to prime yourself. Whatever works for you. Now, these two core teachings that show up in all authentic spirituality are: one, the teaching of the present moment, and two, the teaching of direct experience. These are both very, very simple, at least simple to understand intellectually, but we want to do better than that. We want insight. We want experiential wisdom, evidence. And so what I'm going to do is lead you to an experience of these two teachings, such that you can confirm their validity for yourself. The present moment is the only moment there is, has ever been, and ever will be. When you think about the past or think about the future, when you imagine, when you daydream, you are doing so in the present moment. What we call the past and the future are mental fabrications. They are images conjured up by the firing of neurons, and that firing is occurring right now. The past and future seem to have reality, and indeed they're very convenient. There is nothing wrong with us using our imagination to, for example, learn things from the past and prepare for the future. But we start to experience problems, don't we, friends, when those images of the past and the future hurt us. For example, we remember some embarrassing moment from our past, we relive it, and we punish ourselves for our actions. We hurt ourselves with our images of the future when we, for example, play out a difficult conversation that we're not looking forward to and rack our brains over what we're going to say, how we're going to behave, trying to get it right before we've even set foot in the room. I know you've had these kinds of experiences. Friends, they're very human. Not only are they human, not only are they, shall we say, natural consequences of our biology, our physiology, but we also created a culture in which obsessing over the past and the future is normal. We are trained to punish ourselves in these ways because we think that it will help us to avoid pain. That's why we wallow in the past. That's why we obsess over the future. We think that it's going to make things better. Now, in the case that we learn a lesson from the past, then indeed we've made things better. In the case that we make a suitable plan for the future, then, when that future moment arrives, we are likely to have a better time. Ram Dass said, and this is one of my favorite quotes from anyone ever, he said, "The thinking mind is a wonderful servant, but a lousy master." If we're going to create these images of past and future, we want to do so on our own terms. A deliberate review of some past event, for example, to see what lessons can be learned, or a deliberate playing out of some future scenario for the sake of preparation. But if we are compulsively creating these images, if it appears for you, friends, that you have no choice about when and how those past or future images show up in the mind, and if you reify them, if you take them to be real to the degree that you feel a certain way due to those images that arise in the mind, then your thinking mind is your master. And I know that it doesn't seem that you're doing this to yourself. This is due to our physiology and due to the way that we're trained, the way that our culture has raised us. But good news, you have options. You can demote the thinking mind to the position of servant. And the first thing to do, if you want that result, is to start to acknowledge that when an image of the past or of the future arises, that it is arising right now. It is precisely only an image. We know that memory is flawed. We know that we're very good as a species at beating ourselves up. So who knows if your images of the past are even accurate? One thing we can say for sure is, an individual who experiences an embarrassing moment almost certainly remembers that moment much more frequently than anyone else involved does. Most people involved in that kind of an event forget all about it if they were not the focus. But the individual who experienced the embarrassment, they tend to drag that mental image around with them like a ball and chain, feeling bad about it in perpetuity, sometimes for the rest of their lives. What if you could simply learn the lesson from that moment? Say, hey, that's a reference experience. Next time I find myself in a similar position, I'll act differently. And this is how I'll act differently. We'll see what happens if and when that kind of scenario rolls around. Mission accomplished. Case closed. No need to keep beating yourself over the head with that past event. Regardless, the simple acknowledgement that an image of the past or an image of the future is actually occurring right now, in other words, is a mental fabrication, is all you need to begin to demote the mind, the thinking mind, to the position of servant rather than of master, because it can no longer get one over on you in terms of one of those past or future scenarios playing out in the mind, feeling real. So where does our second core teaching come into this? Well, this second core teaching is direct experience. This teaching on direct experience is so important in whatever you like to call it, spiritual practice, wisdom practice, meditation, mindfulness. I like to call it simply being human. Seeing things as they are, as opposed to seeing things as we imagine them to be. Living in a world of abstraction, living in the world that you conjure up. You can begin to see how these two core teachings support one another. In your direct experience is only what you're experiencing right now. And right now. And right now. Your direct experience is constantly refreshing. Way, way faster than you could ever click refresh on your web browser. We tend to spend so much time, quote, in our heads, that when we hear about direct experience in some wisdom tradition or another, it's like it does not compute. This is how it was for me. The term just went straight over my head for 3 years, I would say. 3 years of dedicated spiritual inquiry. It's like a Zen koan in itself. Zen koan is like a spiritual riddle. This riddle of direct experience is a riddle precisely because it is so simple. And so for the thinking mind that is always trying to work things out, it is missed. The meaning is missed. But when we relax and simply consider what that term means, direct experience, what are you experiencing right now? What sensations are occurring right now? Then so much of your imagined world is eliminated. It is seen to be imagined, and things become so much simpler. So much simpler. In your direct experience, there can be no past or future other than that which you fabricate with the mind. And that is precisely just a fabrication. So it's seen the past and future are not real. They are imagined, perhaps agreed upon among many different humans. That's fine, it's convenient. We don't have to give it up altogether. But when we reify it, and like I said earlier, allow that reification to make us feel a certain way, now we're in trouble. Even if you're someone who must engage with the past and future a lot, say for your work, it is still enormously beneficial for you to at least put down those burdens for a while each day. This is one of the most beneficial functions of meditation. What is occurring in your experience right now? And right now? And right now? When you practice acknowledging your direct experience, you find that it's impossible to tell a story, and without a story, there can be no past, there can be no future, there can be no identity, no ego, no imagined self who did something wrong in the past or has to do things right in the future. What an enormous burden to put down, even if only for a moment. You deserve a rest, friends. You deserve at least a short break from all of your shoulds and oughts and musts, all of the obligation that you've taken up, all the ways in which you feel you must protect yourself when actually things are perfectly safe right here, right now. In your direct experience, there is only ever now. No yesterday, no tomorrow. Only mental images, which you can now engage with as you please, as makes sense, based on wisdom, discernment, compassion. Not compulsion, not obsession, not frustration, not shame, not guilt, not doubt, not worry. In putting down these burdens, you become enormously powerful. No longer are you dragging around that ball and chain. The weight of your story. You're free to act spontaneously for mutual benefit. Perhaps you need to come back to meditation to settle into this direct experience of the present moment. But if you continue to practice, you will dissolve the boundary between meditation and non-meditation. You will see that this is actually how things are when we stop compulsively using the imagination. And then you can walk into the most high-pressure scenario and act with perfect clarity. I want this for you, friends. I want this for everyone. Imagine what the world would be like if everyone stopped living in their imagined realities and lived in the simple reality that is all that's really going on. In this reality, there's no need to be selfish, because we see clearly that mutual benefit is the only game in town. It's the only thing that makes sense. If one of us loses, we all lose. So if you found this useful, keep coming back to this video. Make this a regular practice. Get used to placing down the burdens of your past and future. Get used to your direct experience of the present moment. Get more familiar with this, and I assure you everything will get easier for you. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you want more of these guided meditations, subscribe. Leave me your reflections or questions, or let me know how this practice went for you down in the comments. And I'll see you for the next one.